Marseille? I gotta look that up. Hey, Steven here again. The game I'm looking at today is Paris Connection. It's a game put out by Queen Games. It's a 3 to 6 player game, plays in about 20 to 30 minutes, and is for ages 8 and up. Now, this is a abstract game, which, as I've made really clear in the past, I'm not so hot on the abstracts, but one thing that will make me pick up an abstract game is if it has a decent theme pasted on top. And this game has a train theme on top of it, which just so happens I'm a huge fan of train games, Age of Steam being right up there on the list. Now, this is no Age of Steam, but it's still caught my attention, and that's why it's in my hands, and I'm gonna have a look at it right now. This is a 3-player setup for Paris Connection. In this mode, each player starts with 10 trains behind their screens. One concept that I want to get out there right away is that players aren't actually a specific color in this game. We're all just trying to buy shares in each of these 6 different companies represented here. Throughout the game, the values of each of these companies is going to rise on this track, and at the end of the game, players simply look behind their screens and multiply the amount of shares that they have in each company by the values on the track, and that's how they get their score. So in this example, I'd have 2 blue trains by a value of 2, so that's 4 points. Also important is the 2 game ending conditions, the first being depletion of stocks. Around the board, you can see that these are all the available stocks / shares for the different train companies. And if at some point in the game there's a board that only has shares on one of them, so like all the other ones are empty, then the game ends immediately. The other game ending condition is if any of these companies here make a continuous connection all the way down to Marseille, then the game also ends immediately there. And the final concept I just want to point out is that trains are actually multi-purpose. So if they're ever behind your screen, they represent shares, but if they're ever played to the board, they represent track. On a player's turn, the player has a choice of one of 2 actions. The first action is building. To build on a turn, a player may choose any color of company and add 1 to 5 trains of that color. As an example, I could have this person as a starting player, and I'll have them put out 5 trains of purple. Putting out trains is an important action as this is the way that companies build value. On this turn, you can see that purple went through 2 white cities, and looking at our player aids, we can see that every white city that a company goes through generates that company 1 point. 2 white cities equals 2 points, so purple moves up 2 points. With that action completed, it's now the next player's turn, which is where I will demonstrate the trading stock action. So this player is noticing the value of purple increasing, is going to trade one of their stocks. So they're going to trade in a brown stock, and they now get to choose any other board, and they get to take 2 of that color. And so we're going to have them put that brown in, and we're going to take 2 purples. And that is the end of that player's turn. One note about stock is that you get penalized if you go over a certain amount, and that's determined by the amount of people playing. So in a 3-player game, if any player goes over 20 pieces of stock behind their screen, they'll get penalized 20 points for every piece of stock over 20 that they go. So in those first 2 moves, I've shown you everything that can be done in the game. Beyond that, there's just little minutiae of various situations that can occur until one of the 2 ending conditions hasn't met. To demonstrate one of these little rules, I'm going to have player 3 who wants to move the yellow company to connect to Troyes. To do this, he's going to have to go through the purple company. And the rule in the game is we are allowed to have up to 2 different companies in the same hex at the same time, except in cities. Cities can only contain 1. And so on player 3's turn, he's going to place 5 yellow train. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Now that there's 2 trains on this hex, no more trains can go into this section. So now I'm going to fast forward the game to the game's conclusion. So a number of turns have occurred, train companies have expanded, and their bet point values have gone up. But player 1 wants to finish the game off right now, and so they're going to take their final track placement action. As mentioned, one of the game end conditions is as soon as someone hits Marseille, then the game is over. So player 1 is going to lay his 5 potential tracks in this order. He's going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, and then finally 5. And so as a result of this move, and looking at the values of white cities and the final blue city, we can see that red is going to move up 1, 2, 3, and then an extra 4, so that's 7 points. We'll move red up the final 7 points, and that's game. To finish the game off, players simply reveal the shares that they have and then calculate all their totals. So in this situation, we'd have red with 5 shares times 15, so that's 75. 1 times 2 is 2. 2 times 5 and 2 times 5, that's 10 and 10. And 1 times 2 is 2 for a grand total of 98. To start the game again, and you will want to play again, you simply throw all the trains into that bag there, give all the players their initial starting trains, dump the bag out, fill out the boards, and you're ready to go again. Well, Paris Connection is an incredibly easy to teach game. I played this with my parents a lot when they were here over Christmas. Played it with a few other people, and overall I'd say that everyone who's played it has completely loved it. It's very quick to play. Setup is kind of annoying. As I showed at the very end of my review, basically the setup of the game is you're mixing up all the trains, giving random ones out to people, and then spreading all the trains onto their individual player boards, and that actually takes a little while. Now, if one person were to do it, it would be quite the chore, but if you've got like 4 people at the table playing, you can sort them out really quickly. But that is kind of a complaint. It's irksome, but you get over it. Beyond that, I'm really engaged by the whole gameplay of this. It seemed really simple right at the start, and I mentioned one of the end goals is to get to Marseille, and you'll see that in your first couple games, people are going to be like driving to get a company there right away, hoping to score big and win. But people will quickly discover that if you focus on that too much, you ain't winning. And so further games after that will focus on people getting more shares and being more strategic with how the companies move out. And you'll notice that the game starts unlocking more and more the more that you play it. And like there was a certain point where I had like an always win strategy. The thing is, the other players at the table started to take note of this, and they started adapting strategies that reflected mine. And so at that point, yet again, the game sort of unlocked a little bit more, and then a new level of strategy was employed by all. And so further plays were towards better gameplay. One concern that I want to bring up is the price point of this game. It does seem a little high, and it's been reflected in a number of reviews that I've been looking at. But upon further reflection, it doesn't really seem all that off once I realize like how good the card stock is used in all the components. Like the board is pretty thick, and so are all the share tracks and the player screens, and even the box itself. I mean, the stuff in here is like really thick, strong, sturdy construction, which I'm not used to in most of my games, because what I get in other games, they're like really flimsy and they don't really hold the parts in, and often during shipping they get torn or whatever. But I mean, this is like solid construction. So I do sort of see the complaints, but the component quality itself is really good, and the game is fun, and it's going to see a lot of repeated plays, and it's going to hold up to those plays. So this game fires on all cylinders, really. It can basically be taught to anyone. It is just so easy for anyone to comprehend, but there's a much deeper game that needs to be unlocked, and it's something that keeps me engaged and just wanting to play more and more. And the wonderful thing about this is it fills a niche of actually supporting 6 players. There's so many times where I've been in situations where there's been a player count of 6, and we just really haven't had something to fill the gap. And the only other game that really fulfilled this was Seven Wonders, and it's nice to have a second option out there to deal with this situation. So in the end, just really great production. I highly recommend it. Especially if you like abstracts, but even not, like there's a very interesting share stock game in here. And I'm sorry if I interuse the word stock and shares. I'm not an economist, and I know one means one thing, one means the other. Just yeah, I'm not great with my words. So sorry about that, but great game. See you later. So yet again, I put a little OCD check into my video. I purposefully did the addition for the final score of the game incorrectly. The final score was not 98, it was 99, and I'm just wanting to see if anyone's going to make a comment.